To draw with the eraser, so the white erasers are the best to use. And mine is really dirty on the edges. I've got one clean edge there. So remember, you need to go back and check. We want one really nice edge. So a lot of you have wider erasers. Maybe you just use the width, use the smaller size. And again, you always want to make sure that you clean those erasers before, because you don't want to wreck your drawing at this point. The other thing, artists never have their erasers in a pencil case with other things. Same with smudgies. You don't want a pen to be anywhere near your art tools, because if you get any ink on these things and you go to erase, no, you've just gonna ruin everything. So always make sure that you keep your kind of drawing supplies separate. Like I said, I had this nice tiny little eraser that's gonna help, but to start off with, I'm just gonna use, you can use the pink eraser if you need to, or if you've got one of these white little erasers, those ones are even better. And I'm just gonna go ahead and clean mine a little bit by just erasing on a scrap piece of paper. Okay, so we're gonna start with the top. And to show the shiny parts on the top, we're just gonna make a parallel curve. So let me turn my page. And if I was to put a line here, you know that how to do a parallel curve. This is where that practicing your curves is gonna come in. So right here, I'm gonna get the curve, and then I'm just gonna move my pencil down, my eraser down, and I'm gonna draw myself a highlight that's the same curve as up here, and that's gonna start to make it look shiny. Let me do the same thing. I'm gonna turn this way, and I'm gonna put one just maybe on this side. So once again, I'm gonna get my curve. I want a nice curve. It's gotta be parallel to look really good. And maybe I just add another thicker one. And you can see already it's gonna start to make it look shiny, because shiny things have highlights. Okay, so here's some good tricks. So we can make, I'm gonna make one big highlight right over here, but remember, we have to follow the form. So I've got to curve it just a little bit at the top, and then it's gonna go straight down, but as soon as it gets here, we have to curve again. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna take the side of my eraser. I'm pressing down a lot because I'm trying to draw a highlight. So I'm gonna go curve it, and then I'm going straight down here, and then I'm curving, curving when I get to the bottom. Okay, and then I got a lot of eraser crud to get rid of. And that does two things. First of all, by having this highlight come out, it starts to make it look more like glass, and it makes it look shiny. And you know, you don't want to do too many of these. Obviously, the real thing, there's so many light sources in this room. I've got tons of them. So just stopping even there is like, hey, that looks pretty good. I think I'm going to put one more little one, maybe just up here. So once again, because it curves before it goes down, I've got to make sure that I curve. So I'm just going to curve a little here and draw a little here. If you draw one, and I actually like that one, but we'll pretend I don't, right? If you don't like it, you can always take your Kleenex, or if your angle's slightly wrong, and you can usually just go back in like that. Things that are transparent, another way to do that is, again, you can take your eraser, and I can just kind of drag another one down here, and that'll start to create a lot more transparency. So at this point, you can stop there. It's a really nice drawing. But those of you that kind of want to go one more step is you can see the other side at the bottom, and I'm going to make this optional for you. Right? Again, we're all in different places on the mountain. Some of you are like, this is the best jar I've ever drawn, and you want to stop right there. I'm okay with that. For the others that want to just push a little bit more, it's the same thing as we did at the top. We would actually see the other side of the curve. So where our blocking line was right here, I went that far down. That means if I go the same distance up, and we're not going to draw the whole thing because it can get pretty messy. What I usually do is I just draw that back part, and you can see how awful that looks because it's a line and we never want lines. So I'm going to take the smudgy, let me just zoom in a bit for you, and I'm just going to go back and soften that line. And what the smudgy is doing is it's stopping us from doing that outline look, and it lets us blend. So I'm just going to kind of blend the edges out. Especially this is a hard jar to do because it's got that weird shape in the bottom. So I'm just kind of faking the sides a little bit. And then I'm going to just kind of bring it down, bring the shading down a bit to soften it. So let me zoom back out again. So it looks more realistic because now I have the darker line on the bottom. I think it looks a little bit too dark. Obviously my eye is going right here. That's because I erased out some of these areas. Yeah, you can draw with an eraser just as much as a pencil. So I'm going to go back in and I want to put the highlights back over that area again. So I'm going to go back, erase it out right here. It's already erased. Maybe I just put a nice little white line here, right? Oh, I like that one. I'm going to keep that one going. Really skinny. Depends what tools you have. Like I said, I'm lucky. I ordered this really tiny eraser online. So I can get super small little lines. And again, you know, if I wreck it, one of the things, I know it gets scary sometimes, if you take a picture of your jar with just those first highlights, so you know it's safe, and then if you want, you can go back and play some more. It's up to you, I understand. Okay, and there is our jar drawing, except for one more thing. We need to go back and check our edges. So we talked about fuzzy edges and hard edges. Glass cannot have fuzzy edges. So again, this is the last step. You want to go back and check your edges, and we want to have hard edges. So remember this trick. Again, take a piece of paper, go back to your edge. Mine aren't too fuzzy, to be honest. I did a pretty good job, but especially when you start smudging things. So if I go here, there's all this little bits of fuzziness that are sticking out over the edge. So I'm gonna take a piece of paper and I'm holding it with my fingers, and I'm gonna erase. Whew. And now I'm gonna get a really nice edge. So we wanna watch that. Once again, to make a really highly realistic pencil drawing, you don't want outlines, but you also don't want your edges to look too fuzzy either. So this is another good way to get rid of outlines if you find that you still have little lines, and I do, frankly, on the edge of my jar. So the highest realism, no outlines, no fuzzy edges, and so that's great for straight lines. When it gets to the curves, you just gotta do your best to erase around them. The other thing is, watch when you have a good drawing that you're not smudging it with your hands. So right now, if I move my hand on this, I'm gonna smudge my drawing. So when you are done shading, you always wanna cover your drawing with a piece of paper to make sure nothing happens to it while you go back. So I'm just gonna go and clean my edges a little bit. And that is the jar drawing.